Welcome to the MVP Show. Today I have a chat with a man that knows his stuff. Business Applications MVP, Jerry Weinstock. I would love your feedback. If you're listening to the MVP Show over the last couple of months, what do you think? Please tweet me at NZ365Guy. For full show notes, visit nz365guy.com/41. Now let's get the show started.
There's a knife in my heart and a storm in my hand.
Okay, everybody, I'm here with Jerry Weinstock, and you heard that right. Wine, as in wine you drink with stock at the end. And we're talking today about his tenure as a business applications MVP. What are you at now, Jerry? 7 or 8 years?
I'm at 8 years now. Became an MVP in 2010, and actually looking over at my little plaque, and it's got 5, 6, 7, 9 rings on it. But there was a hybrid year and a half, and they combined things when they redid the renewal process. So somehow I've got 8 years, but 9 rings or something like that. So I guess I'm on my 9th year.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know they've changed it recently, and I'm just like, why do they need to make that change and make it a dual year thing? They could just left it, right?
Right.
So Jerry, tell us a bit about your passions outside of being an MVP, focusing on Dynamics 365 for since around 2003, I think it is. Tell us about. I know you're into water skiing, and you're pretty passionate about that.
Right. So water skiing's a lot of fun. It's been a lifetime experience for me. I think it's something that I'm really passionate about because from an athletic ability, I'm reasonably good at it and remarkably poor at just about everything else, basketball, soccer, football, things of that nature. So it's worked out real well. I lived on a lake during the summertime in Western Massachusetts growing up. And I started, we lived right on the lake. The family had boats and everything like that. Everybody skied. I started skiing when I was 5 years old, and I just love it. I get out there in the water, and there's nothing nicer than a fun ski run.
Wow, why did you never go pro?
I'm gonna say that probably I'm reasonably good, but maybe not good enough for pro. But I suspect it's a product of my upbringing, that my parents weren't like in that mode, so to speak, and they never pushed me in that direction. Back in those days when I was skiing, they didn't really have pro at those days. If you were a professional, so to speak, you were down at Cypress Gardens in Florida doing ski shows and things of that nature. But the most exciting thing I ever saw was I went to the 1964 World's Fair as a kid. And you can still Google it and see a picture of it. They had a big tank there. Basically, it was almost like a quarter-mile oval. And they had a boat that was running around in there. They had stands and everything, and they were showing off all sorts of skiing stuff in this tank that was like, quarter-mile, track size around. And I saw somebody doing barefoot there, and I got to do that. So I did that. I guess I'm going to disclose my age, but that was when I was 12 years old. So basically, I did that the next summer, and I've been enjoying the barefoot component of water skiing since then for maybe 50 plus years.
Okay, so listen, I understand you live in Kansas. Is that right? And the only thing I know about Kansas is Dorothy Gale.
Yeah.
And the Wizard of Oz, and is that the same place?
That is the same place. We're one of those rectangular states in the middle of the country that you fly over when you go from the West Coast to the East Coast. And I've been in Kansas since 1985, and before that it was in Florida, and then before that I was in school in Arizona, and then before that back in the Northeast. But Kansas is now home.
Wow. So tell us a bit about your family and kind of, if I was to come to Kansas, what would we go out and do?
We definitely want to go water skiing. The other thing I'm into is competitive target shooting. So you might go out to the range and shoot some rifles and pistols and some paper stuff, and we could have fun doing that. But what we might go to a couple. I mean, we have civilization here in Kansas. People on the East Coast and West Coast wonder, but we have a NASCAR track. We have the Kansas City Chiefs. We have the Kansas City Royals. That's our football team, and for you, that would be that pointy ball with not the round one. And then we have a baseball team, and we've got a professional soccer team. So we've got culture here in Kansas. And that's pretty good. So my family, I've been married for coming up on 43 years now to a girl I met we met when we were in college, and we've got two grown kids. In fact, the oldest child, my daughter, is getting married this coming Sunday.
Wow, wow,
So if
congratulations.
anybody wants to set up a GoFundMe page and and help me out, and you're listening, I'll take it. And if you want to know what I'm doing on Monday after the wedding, I'll be at the county courthouse filing for bankruptcy. But besides that, it's going to be a great weekend, and I've got a 27, and my daughter's 32, and I got a 27-year-old son who is a AutoCAD guy, Revit guy at a local engineering firm. So yeah, we got a couple dogs and a horse or two.
Wow, you've got a full-on weekend coming up.
Yes, I do.
Full on, full on. So, Jerry, how did you? I'll just get you to jump in the time machine, take us back to first receiving your MVP award, and tell us a bit about the feeling of that and how it came about.
So what happened is our company was exhibiting at Convergence back in 2009, and I had back then the CRM team had a blog post site, and they were taking lots of contributions from guest contributors all the time. It was a whole different kind of component. It was basically their main communications channel at the time. And I saw some people that didn't work for the product team that were making posts, and looked at it and I go, I think I could do that. Of course, I had never done a blog posting in my life prior to that, but I said, I think I could do that. And somehow chased down the guy at the time that was running it, which was a gentleman named Jim Glass, who was running it, and started communicating with him. And I said, here's a couple things I'd like to think would be of interest to post about. And he said, okay, great, write them up, send them in, which I did. And they appeared online, a month or two later. And I go, like, this is fantastic. I mean, like, I was just ecstatic to see my name online like that, because blogging was pretty much in the early days back in 2009. And then I ran into Jim at the Convergence event later on, and we were exhibiting. He came by the booth, and he was talking to me. He says, well, I wonder why you're not an MVP, Jerry, because I see, you did the guest post. I've seen you out on the forum site answering questions and things of that nature, which was a very big component of being an MVP back in the day. That was one of the key factors, is how many posts that you were responding to and answering, because, I've probably not politically correct, but Microsoft, I think, views this as cheap support labor to have MVPs and other people answer questions on the forum and support the community. But we were doing that, and he goes, "I wonder why you're not an MVP." And he goes, "Oh, I should know that answer, because since I run the program." He goes, "Well, you ought to apply." And I go, "Really?" So I said, "Okay." So I applied, and then this is when they were doing the reviews quarterly. Nothing happened for the first quarter, and I go, "Oh, shucks." It's what is not going to happen. And then I updated my contributions, and then the next quarter came by, nothing happened. And at this point in time, I'm thinking, okay, this is not going to happen for me. And then the third quarter came by, and in October of, I guess it would be actually 2009. Yeah, 2009, I got this email on October 1st, and it was phenomenal. And it was just great, because I've been checking, the first of the quarter, first of the month, every quarter here for the last 3 or 4 quarters, and nothing happened, and get this email. And it was just like, it was probably one of the biggest professional accomplishments of my entire career, in conjunction with some other things I've done with in the .com era and things of that nature. But it's like in the top 3,
So,
if not the top 1.
has it affected your career?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah?
I
In
don't
what way?
I don't think I would be where I am today, both successfully as a CRM consultant and an ISV, without ever having this experience of being an MVP in a couple areas. One is you get to hang out with a lot of really smart people across the world and get all sorts of different information. And you've got this resource group of fellow MVPs. And back in the day, in 2010, it was a smaller group. There was only about 40 of us now, and I think we're probably over 100 or something like that, depend upon how you count business application specialists, solution guys and gals. And then the other part of it is, quite frankly, there's some initial credibility. I mean, it's kind of like having a PhD in the business that you're working in. And I think that's an edge. And I love giving back to the community. I've prospered personally quite a bit from, the CRM program and what we've done here at our company. And it's great to donate time back to the community to help grow the pie and so on.
So that's interesting, as in that it's had that type of impact. And one of the things I've noticed recently, well, I say recently, the last year and a half or so, Microsoft have we've seen the Power Platform come out, we've seen Power Apps, Flow, Power BI, really coming together. And we're seeing this pivot, happening with Microsoft. And, we all started kind of like in Dynamics CRM days or 365. We're seeing this pivot. And I've noticed that a lot of Microsoft staff, when Microsoft bring out new technologies, the smart staff pivot and get on the training and learn the new stuff, and their careers just keep going from one, a highlight to the next. They keep growing their careers. And I've noticed that you've done the same recently, as in over the last year and a half or so. You've made this pivot and you're starting to invest a lot more time and contribution around Flow, Power Apps. Tell us why, what's your thinking there, and why you're making that pivot.
So I think one thing we need to get right on the table is I'm not a coder. I don't code for a living. I don't write code. I manage developers. I've got a pretty good technical affinity. I can look at code and kind of understand what it's doing, but I couldn't feed the family, in that category. So Microsoft Flow is a great solution for this, the citizen developer, and I think it, basically puts, super premium gasoline in your tank when you're able to use a product like that. And it's sort of the culmination of these theories years ago. The same thing with Power Apps is that you could non-developers or non-coders could create applications using point-and-click applications. So Microsoft Flow, which I'm really into, and then perhaps secondarily into Power Apps, is a great tool, allows us to connect things to CRM, and that's pretty much the kind of my whole focus. I'm not off doing Flow things necessarily that aren't connected to CRM, but it is really slick, and the reality of it is now is it's becoming even more intertwined and with the CRM or customer engagement platform, and very soon it is going to be the workflow engine for the customer engagement platform. So it's kind of fortuitous that I kind of jumped on it because I kind of feel it's given me a head start as to when it becomes the new engine. Yeah.
Have you got any thoughts kind of, when you feel that it will get to that point where it will pretty much replace the old kind of workflow, both a synchronous and asynchronous workflow engine that's currently inside Dynamics?
Well, there's some things I know under NDA that I can't speak to, and then there's some other things that I believe are going to happen that are just exist within my mind time frame. But I think we're going to see that, we saw that turn of events and the first step in that direction when Flow got added to the navigation system within CRM this past release. I think we're going to see more of that in the October release. Exactly how much we're going to see remains to be seen. But I think, I'm not sure, but I think Jerry just thinks, has no real information. I think we're maybe a year away from using Flow entirely instead of the workflow engine. And I could be proven wrong. It could happen in springtime for all I know, springtime 2019. But I think there's a lot of things that they still need to do. I mean, for example, in the Flow engine today, you can either create a recurring flow or a button flow or flow that's triggered on an event, but there's no way really like you can do within the CRM workflow engine, the traditional engine, that you can create a workflow and make it an on-demand workflow at the time. So even that, so if I create a flow that's triggered on an event happening at CRM, I can't also fire it off on demand right now. So I'd have to actually create a different version of it, so to speak. So they're coming along, and the CDS component changes the whole perspective too. So I think it's very exciting times, and it's like drinking from a fire hose. There's so much new stuff coming out.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. How do you kind of keep up with the so much that's coming out?
Well, I don't, I think is the honest answer. When I started with CRM in 2003, I took my first CRM exam in the spring of 2003. You could ask me any questions about customer relationship management, sales, marketing, and service, and I would be able to give you the answer immediately. And then we had 3.0, and then we had 4.0. I still knew it. 2013 came out. But I will tell you, since 2016, you have had to pick your battles, so to speak. So within the contents of the new things that have come out, quite frankly, as a company, we have not ramped up for Power BI. We don't have, I don't have anybody on my team that's sort of statistically orientated, so to speak, and is tuned into graphing and charting and visualizations. So basically, if we have that come our way, we're going to speak to Power BI. We know features, benefits, and so forth. But I'm going to outsource that to somebody from my extended team, and I'm not going to look for my existing staff to do that. So you have to be more granular today, and the notion that you can ask an MVP in customer relationship management, so to speak, or customer engagement these days, anything about voice of the customer or field service or project service automation, you're going to be disappointed, because it is literally impossible to be as knowledgeable about the product offering as we once were. Nobody can do it. I don't know who can do it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely become it's a full toolkit now, right? You used to have one or two tools. Now it's a full toolkit, and it's hard to be kind of an expert in all of them all the time.
Yes, no doubt about it. And there's things that we learn when we pick up these other packages, or if we do a voice of the customer application, which we do on a reasonably regular basis. But the reality of it is we still learn some new things. And then we've had to flip over to customer service, and there's some new things happening there. It is challenging not to spend your entire week, quite frankly, keeping up with all the new stuff. You could do that easily.
So true, so true. Listen, if people listening to this were, they were keen to perhaps become an MVP, what bits of advice to prepare themselves for becoming an MVP would you recommend? As in, could be their contributions, could be any area. What would be top of mind for you if someone said, Jerry, I really love to follow in your footsteps. Any recommendations?
So there's a couple things. One is, you don't have to be a developer. So if you're not a coder, no problem. If you're a coder, there's a couple things you can do. I think one of the ways that if you want to become a player, so to speak, or a person in the community that has visibility, one place to go is to contribute to the XRM toolbox as a developer. That's a start to go down that path. Certainly getting out on the forums, whether the CRM user group forums or whether the Microsoft forums for support, and getting out there and answering questions. Blogging is a great way to do it, and certainly blogging about just things that happen in your day with customers, okay? And if you're a customer, just that's another thing. MVPs are not always from the partner community. We have a number of MVPs in our area that are from end users. So you can be a end user person that's a Microsoft MVP. So basically, the blogging doesn't have to be, you don't have to create new stuff all the time. You can just take things that you're working with your clients or working with internally, tips and tricks and experiences, and blog about them. Get involved in any user groups, whether it's a meetup group or CRM user group. Go to Summit, submit sessions, get in front of audiences, get some visibility, and participate in maybe the Facebook group for CRM. Get out on LinkedIn, do those things. So just talk about what you're doing and how you're doing, and share your information. People just want to know what other people are doing and how they're solving problems.
Yeah. I love it, man. Such absolute gold there. I was going to ask for 2 or 3. I think you gave me 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 different tips right there. which is, fantastic. Listen, we're going to wrap up now, and I've always got a couple of, weird and wacky questions to finish up with, and I just like to run one or two of them maybe past you. But if you were to look at somebody that was successful, kind of like what kind of names jump to mind of people, and it could be totally unrelated dynamics, but, who do you look up to as somebody that's successful in life?
I have a lifelong childhood friend, and he retired when he was 50, and he's been living a pretty good life. So he was a pretty smart investor, and I guess I kind of wished I was as smart of an investor as he was. He also lived frugally and, made money, but lived under his income, saved, and did fun stuff. But he retired when he's 50, and he's been or 50 something. He's been having a great time, and that would have been cool.
That's cool. I like that you balance that. He made some good investments, but he also, he lived frugally, which is, a lot of people think it's just all about the money, but it's also about controlling or saving the money as well. How do you deal with opportunities? As in, so ideas come your way. Do you kind of have a system for, qualifying in, qualifying out, that type of thing?
Yeah. So as we started the ISV business as a back in 2007 because we wanted to make money while we slept was the notion, and I thought that was pretty cool. And it's easy to kind of sit here in the ivory tower, so to speak, and say, oh, this is what really the marketplace needs and everything. But the reality of it is that you can be pretty far off in that. So what I tell myself and what I suggest to my clients when we're sitting around a conference table thinking about how they ought to do something for their users or whatever, or I want to come up with an ISV solution because I think the market needs is, when in doubt, ask your customers. So ask real people, do you think you really need this? Sure, that'd be great. Would you pay for it? Oh, probably not. So I think that's a pretty good dividing line. Would you pay for this? Well, no, but I'd like to have it. So that's one of the easy ways to separate fact from fiction.
I like it. Hey, Jerry, it's been great to have you on the show. If people want to track you down online, where can they find you?
So on Twitter, they can find me at CRM Innovation. On our website, they can go to crminnovation.com. And if you just want to find me online, just Google Jerry Weinstock, and I usually come up first. There's another Jerry Weinstock out there that's an actor. That's not me, but you'll see my links, and for better for worse, I'm right up there on page 1 at the first and second or third listing, which probably means all sorts of private information about me is out there also on the internet. So if you find my social security number out there, let me know if you would.
Full show notes can be found at nz365guy.com/41. Hey, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave feedback on your favorite podcast app. See you next week.